It's a really long series. You saw that illustrated by Kyle with the 5 o'clock shadow. It is getting to almost exactly that time right now, and in fact, it's an hour and a half afterwards. So Yorick and the Nico going to be banned away here. Who has the tenacity to take this Game 5 victory, especially when it's Fearless? Look at these champions that have been banned away already. 40 just from the Fearless bans.
We just keep
gonna have 6 more.
Seeing the same bans here for GENG. Unsurprisingly, the Rise, the Gwen also gone here. First
the
pick.
deeper you are into Fearless, the more you have to ban the same stuff.
Yeah, because it becomes so much more powerful each and every game that goes by, especially some of those picks that are Game 1 banned are suddenly Z tier, like the Pantheon. But the Skarner will make its way through here, and GENG have been able to play around Canyon Skarner so incredibly well. Domestically, he was really the only player at the end playing it as it fell off in win rate, the only one finding success. A safe pick, but again, we don't know what this comp is going to look like just yet.
And Leona is kind of the last engage in the support role that was left, and that was snapped up there by AGAL.
Yeah, that's definitely a good shout. So Lucian, Leona, not the most common duo, but certainly something that can get a lot of damage done. Would love to see just slam the Smolder, slam the Ornn. It's hard engage.
What about
the Xayah also available? No Rakan, of course.
They could also just play like Zeri Lulu, but they're ultimately looking for the safe anti-Leona engage here with this Xayah. And even though it's very low range, so is Lucian, and you have a Skarner to kind of pull those champions into you. You could play around choke points. You can make a choke point practically with a Skarner with those fights, so it does make sense. Looking for range support here to pair with it in this Renata. Now, I understand that with the Leona on the other side, it might be more of a dive-oriented composition here for AGAL, but you can't really necessarily know that for sure. So it's a very risky Renata call, I'd say, here from GENG.
At least it's going to be relatively low range. So, and as you mentioned, you know, the range support into the Leona. There's that Silas you were talking about, Atlas, just going to be locked in right away. And certainly a good amount of ults that he can already steal here. The hostile takeover.
There's the Smolder ban.
There's the
first champ that comes to mind, Valdez, when I see this melee Silas, especially with this low-range comp into the Renata, is Smolder. And Tabe thought about it long ago as well.
Yeah, well, we're going to be having a look at jungles. I wonder whether the Tarzan Italy is going to be something that GENG will consider, as that one could be addressed. I think something like Lilia also will be pretty powerful, although there is still magic damage represented by Shanks. There's a Tarzan special in the Olaf.
I love that ban.
Yeah, that's a very smart ban. You know, that's the one thing that would actually just run all the way to the back if it gets fed through the Skarner, through the Renata, and just get straight onto the Xayah. And, you know, prio picking for Ruler, not a bad idea either. I mean, he had a fantastic game number 4, so I really like protecting him even more with this ban.
There's a few picks that, you know, Tarzan can go through. You can see Tabe was already, even though they're going to ban the Aatrox here, they use that extra time to just run through what Tarzan may want to run. I think there's a few picks like the Lilia that was mentioned earlier that are incredibly strong here with this draft. But even something like a Kindred could be something they want to draft towards with this low-range composition. And it can really help deal with the Renata Glass ultimate as well, you know, and basically force the angle to be super awkward on how they want to play it. We'll see a potential Z angle here. That would be an all-in composition here on the dive. Can avoid the Renata ultimate pretty well because you can simply jump past it.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're doing that, but I do actually like the Zed. Just a bunch of burst damage is something that Xayah can't really deal with. Like, do you Featherstorm against the Leona, or do you Featherstorm to survive against Zed? If the Zed ever gets fed in this game, Ruler's going to have a hard time.
They need a second damage threat here, GENG do, I think, because if you just try to protect the Xayah, it's going to be so hard.
Oh my
They disagree, though. They just want more engage. Who says the support has to be the engage? It's just TF Camille. We're going back in time.
No, it's not even engage. We just want a 1-3-1. We don't want to fight you ever. We're just never going to team fight. That's what we're going to do. And so Vladimir is going to come in, the team fight extraordinaire. AGAL have, what, like, how many sources of CC? 2? 3 in this game? It's kind of crazy, but there is so much damage out of the Vlad and the Zed. They could just pop a target before they can do anything, and everyone knows that death is the best form of CC.
Both the Vladimir and the Zed are really easy to play around gold cards with, and even against Camille, because the Vlad can go untargetable, the Zed can just circumvent the fight completely. But the rest of the composition is very vulnerable to this. The Lucian in particular, even the Sylas trying to engage in, if it gets Hextech Ultimatum or impaled by Canyon, is going to have a hard time. For GENG, I think the key, we know that this team can play 1-3-1. We know this team can play through the Camille, play through the TF, the macro. It's about Ruler making sure he's able to survive against all these threats, because you have the tools to set Ruler up for success, set up those feathers. You just have to survive long enough to do that damage, and you can win those longer fights.
This is a fascinating draft this time around, and I actually feel like the comparison between Game 4 and Game 5, even though there are less champions available in the 5th game, the identities of these drafts, I feel, are so much clearer. On the side of AL, though, I am a little bit worried by that lack of CC, that lack of lockdown that they'll have, and the fact that a Camille and a Twisted Fate will be able to pick their target and decide who dies in a lot of these fights. So we'll just have to see whether GENG will be able to reverse the momentum, or whether AGAL can just ride the reverse sweep towards a trophy here at the Esports World Cup, presenting League of Legends. Will bring that back for a different region for the first time, as the LCK already claimed it last year on behalf, T1 did it on behalf of the LCK. Let's just see whether AGAL can find it in themselves to win this final game and reverse sweep their way back to glory.
This is going to be an intense game number 5 after game number 4, which was just absolutely bonkers. Now we got all the weird picks coming out. You know, we listed a bunch of standard ones, but a lot of good stuff got bans too. You know, even the Jacks late in the draft. And eventually we just end up with one of the old classic compositions, the TF Camille, just the we're not even going to fight you comp. Just keep you at a distance.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was Sylas often picked into TF as a counter? I'm just trying to wonder.
It was often picked, yes, yeah, a few years ago. Back in like 2021, this was extremely common. You know, after we saw Showmaker, you know, end up getting the TF skin when he won the World Championship, and the Sylas was following TFs everywhere during that time. And Sylas was also in a really good state at that time. I'm curious about how this Vladimir-Camille matchup goes, because it's not something that in my modern League of Legends we see almost ever. Vladimir obviously incredibly strong later on, but can struggle in some of these earlier phases of matchups. Not necessarily as much into melee matchups, but if they play through top side and Keen gets fed before this Flandre Vladimir gets online, it could be a huge issue.
Field of Daybreak not actually going to be utilized here by Kyle. A little bit unfortunate there for the AL bottom lane, and now with the range advantage, it's kind of big for Ruler and Duro down there. So we're having a look, Hextech sweep. This is a start of your answer here, Wolf, as we have a look at the first little salvo of trading.
I feel like especially in game 5s, you can sometimes, you kind of have to throw some lane advantages out the window, just because you need stuff that makes sense, that is tier list worthy, but also that makes sense in your composition. And so, you know, I really like the response of Xayah and Renata from the side of GENG. They said, okay, we're going to dominate this bottom side. The Leona's not going to have a fun time. The Lucian will not be able to farm too much. You see the other two lanes? You know, relatively even for now. Sure, you know, the melee of the Sylas will be pushed in, but that bottom lane should be dominant here early for GENG.
Yeah, that ward got so much value for Ruler and Duro, where they were able to chip away, push this in, deny so much farm. Great handshake there, denying the engage as well. Who does end up taking that extra damage there at the very end from Hope, but this has been phenomenal lane control early.
Yeah, the handshake is pretty good, I guess, against the good old Zenith Blade, as Tarzan is zipping around the jungle here on this Zed. And Canyon doing his very best to keep up on the lumbering Skarner. They are just continuing to have to deal with GENG knocking on their door over and over again. Taking the waves decently well, but it's 7 CS to 17 right now in that bottom lane. It's kind of a disaster.
Yeah, it's the lead you're looking for. Canyon outpaced, of course, as we already mentioned. First back comes through from Tarzan on his full clear, grabs double longsword, and we'll head towards the bottom side of the map to try to help relieve some of that pressure here in this lane as Scuttle will spawn. Kyle, not quite level 3 just yet, as Canyon knows he needs to come down here and match. He's seen on this ward.
Yeah, you can see Tarzan in the area as well, and they don't have a lot of information as there is the Zenith Blade in. Kyle looking for that angle as Ruler is flashing after Hope and gets the first blood. The bailout, can they actually make it work? The answer is no, but now it's another 2v2 as both junglers have made it to the area, and the damage from this Leona is non-existent, so Ruler is able to free hit a double kill to start the game 5 for GENG's AD carry.
It is gigantic here for GENG in the bottom lane, but I love the idea from AGL. The timing was perfect from Tarzan, but the execution, it just wasn't there.
It wasn't there. The damage was so insane from Ruler. He canceled one auto in that fight. I thought that was actually going to be the backbreaker, as we'll watch this again. As he realizes, okay, I have to go all in. Handshake here, decent. Goes all in, actually cancels that one auto as he flashes here. Doesn't get the last one. You can see he's clicking for it desperately. Decides to kite back here. But then the peel from the Skarner is great. The miss here from the ZQ actually really huge in terms of the damage. And with this pushback, they just cannot actually get that final hit onto Ruler. He will be able to take both of these kills and a massive lead. His CS lead was already amazing. As you can see, the stress and then the relief here in the GENG booth is now his gold lead is 700.
Yeah, and I guess he's just reminding us all who actually came up with the skin that he's using there towards now the top side of the map. That one's his, and he makes it look real good. Is Canyon going to be taking away this Raptor camp as well, and GENG, I mean, this is the thing, as soon as one of these lanes cracks, GENG are able to push so much more aggressively. This mid lane, I mean, Chovy with a winning matchup in the early game, and he is certainly making it look difficult here for the Silas. Yeah. Currently 600 gold in the lead.
I mean, what you said there, Atlas, is very poignant, because if that was their one opportunity, right? If that was their one opportunity to get the summoners out at least, or to get the kill onto Ruler and to really punish this double range matchup in the bottom lane. But now it's just all out the window. You got a pickaxe here on Ruler. He doesn't have sums for now, but if he plays safe and they just farm it out, like, you're never touching this Xayah. And I mean, Tarzan's got that one kill at least, so maybe a little bit later on, but it's going to be a while.
And you know that basically the enemy jungler has to camp Ruler, otherwise he's going to keep building leads, so the rest of the map just opens up massively. And now we're just going to have this 3v3.
Well, Canyon's just driving in. He's going to beat Tarzan to the punch. As Kyle, where is he going to go? The Destiny is going to come forward, but it's Shanks that's stolen it away. Chovy turns up as well. I mean, everyone can be seen. The Destiny's gates all over the place. And the top laners just say hi to top lane. The mid laners, sorry, say hi to top lane, and then we leave.
Sorry, I meant to say 4v4 here in the top lane. As when someone gets this fed this early, the enemy jungler has to respond, or else that lead continues to balloon. That means Canyon also knows this, has to come up, and then the double global mid with the hijack means it turns into a 4v4. But Ruler's untouched. They engage onto Duro, eats enough damage, and then backs away. And Ruler, because he has that extra pickaxe worth of stats, the longer fight is always going to be his in these types of skirmishes, especially with this melee Silas that isn't able to connect CC. Look at the lead that Chovy has generated, by the way, in that range matchup, plus the gold that TF gets with his passive. He's 670 gold ahead, 15 CS up, Ruler 10 CS up, has the 2 kills, and this early game is all GENG.
Yeah, did feel like AGL just kind of reaching for a second chance opportunity there in the top lane. I was talking about how, you know, maybe this is your chance while Ruler has his sums down, but now that he's got it back, there's just going to be no touching the Xayah and the Renata, who should be sticking around. And Canyon, I love how he was just hovering around them as well, because he knew that that was the one opportunity again for AGL to go in. Now, Kyle's doing it here.
Yeah, speaking of going in, yeah, Hope is rotating down. You can see Ruler was thinking about doing the same thing, but just testing the waters. And AL, I mean, it's so hard when you fall behind like this, because they have, like, Zed and Vladimir do rely on just doing damage to get rid of you, right? And if you don't have the damage, you are actually just useless. And Tarzan needs to be making plays to try and accelerate himself. He is ahead of the matchup, but Skarner will always be useful. You have only CC in your entire kit. And so you can see Tarzan now heading up towards this top side as we're going to do this thirsty go again. The hijack is up, but the Destiny and Gate is not quite there yet. So Shanks should have the advantage. Oh, unless he doesn't have the Destiny cooldown. So never mind. He's not going to be able to head up there. I tell a lie. He could steal something else, though, and then move towards the top lane. He just won't be able to use it to teleport up there.
No, I think
looking for the grubs.
Gen G getting free grubs here. Unfortunately for AGAL, like, every time you fail those types of ganks, like, it gets tougher and tougher to pull it off, and this time without even the Silas angle is just going to be so tough. And they decide not to further push into this. Instead, are going to hope for some mid to late game fights here with the Silas. That's going to be a bigger threat later on, and this scaling Vladimir, which we haven't talked about too much in this game, but Flandre is actually laning really well here against this Camille and has generated his own mini lead here, which is important because he's now one of the biggest win cons here for AGAL.
Yeah, I mean, Flandre's entire tournament has just been beautiful, right? Like back-to-back Sony MVPs 2 days in a row, and was, you know, he's even in consideration for today, right? And it's he's winning this matchup before the Vlad's even level 9, which is kind of like the key level for the Vlad, but when he levels up his Q to level 5, still doing a good job into the melee matchup of, well, the range versus melee matchup of the Camille. So having a good time there. We'll see just how much damage he can do in this game. Currently just farming up as much as possible. There were only 2 grubs taken by Canyon, immediately just went back to farming after that. Didn't care for the 3rd one. Maybe wanted to hang around the bottom side with this rotation coming in and look for a dragon, or maybe just another fight on the bottom side of the map.
It feels like every speck of tempo is so incredibly important. For both of these teams, Canyon has made sure that he's getting to exactly where he wants to as soon as he possibly can. Where he wanted to be just then was right on top of a ward, which is not necessarily the greatest. This dragon is going to be the next target, though, as over the wall he goes. There's the dash out from Hope, though. Still, it's feeling like even though they do manage to get out of the gank, they still lose half of the health bar on their solution, and the pressure is still mounting.
He's so patient with this Impale, too. He could have looked for the 2-man there, but he's like, no, I'd rather just have that for the objective itself. When this Silas comes through, even potentially the Slippery Zed, depending on the scenario. Ruler's got cleanse.
Captain Jack there from Ruler is pretty nice, but the culling softening up Duro quite a lot, and that's going to mean that Tarzan gets some control over this dragon. Mid lane is just going to be shoved in as now the Destiny comes through from Chovy. It's looking for the target. Tarzan getting taken down low as Chovy just trying to distract them as best he can. The flash forward from Kyle on top of Ruler, who's in an awkward position, but the teleport comes on down. Kyle is going to die. Tarzan gets another great smite, but there goes the Leona, and AL still not on the board when it comes to these kills in this fight. There's a hostile takeover. Shanks is extraordinarily dead in this moment, and Canyon is the one that locks down the kill, making it the 4th for Gen G.
It's so tough for these fights for AL because the running of Zed doesn't really offer any CC at all, frankly, in these moments. And even though the fight looked pretty split up and it looked like maybe Chovy was going to be left out to dry as they engage onto a Leona, he's able to kite it out. He gets another stun. He's ranged. And he can just kind of space his way out there as Gen G look for the reapproach. Duro has flash. He has ult. He's going to be able to secure the deny on Shanks' re-engage. And ultimately, Gen G, the decision to go on to Kyle, which looked so risky, does pay off.
I mean, this is a pitiful engage on a Ruler, but you don't really have any other option as Kyle, right? He's still at Featherstorm this whole time and Flash. And Kyle's like, well, I'm just going to sacrifice myself. Maybe my team gets the dragon and gets out. You see that Gen G, they've been doing this all night, where it's like, if there are kills in front of us, we will expend everything to get them, to get the leads, to get the tempo. As Atlas was talking about, it has been so important, especially in this game number 5. It's 2 kills, and it's definitely a large amount of tempo going the way of Gen G, who are now 2,500 gold in the lead.
I do want to give a shout out to Shanks for that hostile takeover, making these 2 little 1v1s off to the side, really distracting Gen G. It almost managed to get almost lethal damage onto Ruler as Keen was doing a bunch of work. But unfortunately, it was too little too late, right? The targets had already been taken down, and Gen G weren't under any extra threat from the rest of AL.
The TF was so important in the end of that fight, because Jovi's offering so much damage, right, and the extra CC. And if you're playing Zed, you have burst damage, but not that much this early, and you can't CC anyone. Like, nobody can lock Chovy down, so they are able to peel off the Leona and then just win the longer fight. And speaking of Leona, Kyle is going to be the target here again.
Hookshot going to come through there as Keen. Down to 50%. Hextech Ultimatum going to come in, though, as Solar Flare getting some decent work done. The culling is lying in wait, and the Hemoplague does come on down as well, as Canyon just going to present Kyle as a target. He is going to go down. Hextech Sweep comes in, but now it is another gate combo, and this time to Silas trying to make his way in, but he doesn't actually get there. Doesn't pull the triggers. Oh, Shanks flashed for it, but it is actually Tarzan that gets the max range shuriken.
Yeah, that was a really weird fight. I mean, GENG were like, okay, we really want to kill this Leona. Let's kill this Leona. Let's do it again. They were so close to killing Kyle so many times, and it's just a Leona. They didn't want to overextend, but they finally got him, and they did overextend a little bit. I mean, they just trade support, so it's not the biggest deal, but a lot used for that weird fight.
It's why I was so concerned about the last fight where they collapsed onto Kyle, but because it was split up and the rest of AL couldn't actually try to save him or follow up on the play while he's tanking, it did work out for GENG a lot better the first time around than it did the second. Still a pretty good fight for GENG at the end of the day, but I mean, this is a Leona that's going to absorb so much pressure. You know, they end up ulting her, but she's got a clip. She's walking out. The redemption has to be used here. Keen is so incredibly low, and then the suppression is used onto Kyle as well. And Zed is actually doing so much damage here in the interim, and then the follow-up does come through Tarzan. Look at how much he does. Really funny to see Shanks attempt here because he thinks the handshake is enough to get Duro out, but Tarzan actually with the shadow is able to get him. He thought the shadow wasn't going to be there in time, so he flashes for it. That's another small advantage that GENG do end up picking up here, that the fact that Silas did flash for that even though it wasn't necessary, but at the end of the day, I think they were probably hoping Duro got out instead.
And that's the least of the Silas's worries as well. As you can see, it's a 2.1k gold lead here for Chovy. And well on his way to his next item, the Aether Wisp now setting up for the Lich Bane after the Rod of Ages has been done for a really long time. He's going to be getting that extra level, maybe sooner than is good, you know, because as you level up, you require more and more experience. Maybe he goes from levels 9, maybe like 13 to 14 instead of that 15 to 16 that you can often get with this item. He just builds it a little early. Yeah, see when it does come in. 5 stacks on it so far.
He's Chovying out of control right now, by the way.
Pretty obscene.
He is above 10 CS per minute easily. Keen in a bit of trouble in the bottom lane, though.
He is going to have to make a bit of an ultimatum here with AL, as there's the flash in for Kyle. And where did she go? This is what we were talking about. Best CC is death, and they've got a fair bit of that.
Yeah, the Vladimir pick into this feels pretty good when you can just get out of that.
So far as Hope gonna flash, and Canyon says you deserve the ultimate. He does press that button as well. As the culling not going to be able to clear out the wave, and that is going to be out of turret secured here for GENG.
To be clear, the death on to Keen is not a trade up here for AL with that turret going down and the control choke he does have on the top side, but it is a little bit of injection of gold here to AL. Zed has all the kills right now. TP flank here is going to be interesting, let's say, in terms of catching GENG, and they're just going to opt to avoid it entirely and look for the Herald versus Break trade.
Yeah, Dragon going to be taken here. Second one for AL.
Chovy's going to get that turret topside, it looks like. Yeah, down it goes. So he just has such a lead. So that's why I was saying, yeah, you got Camille, but you lose 2 turrets. You're going to lose a Herald, which will guarantee a third.
Is he going to hit 200 CS at, like, what, 17 and a half minutes? Hey, what is
he is going to hit 200 CS. He's going to be very fast and very Chovy. Yeah. And, you know, we've talked about it a lot, the TF passive. That's going to make him almost 3,000 gold ahead 17 minutes into the game. And it's not just because his team is stomping or anything like that. That's not even really happening. It's just him. And he's already got his Lich Bane. 2 items and a dagger on top of it all. So... And, you know, I feel like in general, especially with the Cloud Soul on the way, like the 2 Drakes should feel really good for the side of AGL, but with the amount of tempo and the 1-3-1 style of composition that GENG have, I feel like the Rift Herald is just going to get so much value here.
Time, I think, is all AGL are praying is going to come to them. Like, they have 2 Drakes, so that buys them a ton of time. They can avoid fights for a little while here, and this Vladimir will become stronger and stronger. The burst potential of this Zed onto the Xayah, force out Featherstorm for any other reason, becomes a little bit more powerful later on, but it's just surviving. That's the hard part now, getting that extra time, living long enough. Because yes, the Silas feels so useless when you look at the 2.6k number on your screen, when you look at the 2 items for Chovy, but he will eventually get enough gold to be a threat in this game. There's so many ways to get on top of the Xayah that 1 Featherstorm isn't enough, because yeah, Chovy just gets more money. But I'm really trying to say with so few words that AGL still have a chance in this game despite all of these deficits, but survival, that's the hardest part. Like, if they can live to see a 35-minute game, maybe we can have that conversation.
Well, you can see the shadow was set up. Tarzan had an idea that perhaps there was someone lying in wait there, so nice little defensive play. Still sacrifices a fair chunk of his health bar. There is one thing that I'm worried about, and it goes back to Double F's question earlier on in the day, and that is, you know, why the TF and the Callista. These are two picks that haven't necessarily been working. TF we haven't really seen here at EWC that much. And we'll see whether Chovy can make it happen. His time is now as the Destiny does come in. The gate will not follow as he has found an inner turret, guys. And that is something he'd prefer to have as the rest of AL are moving over. And a gateless TF, certainly one that is a little bit more killable. But look at the vision. Look, there's like, he's flanked by control vision everywhere right now. And so far, so good here for the TF comp. But I want to draw your minds back, right, to Chovy of another time. And he, like, when TF was meta, he would do this all the time. And then sometimes they just lose anyway, because it doesn't do as much as a lot of his pivotal picks for getting AoE CC in team fights. You're reminded of his Galio, things like that, AoE damage with his Victor and his Azir. This is a little bit more finesse, a bit more side lane, and a bit more map control. And in the past, it didn't work. I'm looking forward to seeing the evolution of Chovy as he tries to make it work here in this game number 5 for all of the marbles.
GENG are just insane with how much they bully. Like, they got this lead, and now they're like, everything is ours. Your Raptors, your wards, your red buff, your turrets. We're taking everything. And AGAL, I mean, they got to make something happen. But again, they found an engaged champion. But
yeah.
There was still the Xayah available. There was still the Renata Glask available. And what target do you go on to here? It just feels like there's too much peel for GENG.
There's no
They gotta find
play.
something.
There's no proactive play I think you can make right now. You have to do exactly what Flandre is doing and like hold the wave as close to turret as possible, hold Shanks' wave as close to turret as possible, and farm minions and pray that GENG are going to make a mistake. Pray that they're going to overextend. You have 2 extra dragons worth of time for Soul before Soul is an issue for you, right? So that's like 10 minutes of time they've arguably bought here as long as they keep their inhibitors up. You will still have to do things like contest Otacon. You will eventually have to contest Baron in 4 minutes time here, but spend those 4 minutes getting any money on the map that GENG will allow you, because right now that is all that you can do.
Chovy's about to flame Horizon his top laner. This is kind of obscene. We can tell where a few of these minions are coming from. Chovy making sure that he accelerates as fast as he can. The rapid fire cannon actually very important item here for the Twisted Fate.
Here's that Otacon take.
Yeah, they're looking for the angle here as the handshake comes in. And now they have to face check. They have to go for this.
TP.
And what are they going to be able to do? I mean, Kyle, he's seen the Destiny just gives you infinite vision. The black sheep wall just typed in chat, feeling pretty good as Chovy hunting for a target with this yellow card. But AL getting into a decent position. It might even just be a 50-50 here, as it is going to be secured by Canyon as he doesn't find the Impale, but the hostile takeover is absolutely fantastic. Another handshake is good, and Chovy picks up the first kill of the fight. There is one back as Shanks gets one, and now the Vladimir might be able to get something done. Shanks finding the chains, but he then goes down as it's a double for Chovy. Could it be a triple? The answer's no, as that kill belongs to Ruler. There's the shutdown as Canyon says he wants a double, and GENG will win yet another fight. Grab an ace and they can take whatever they want.
I don't think it was the safe fight that GENG fans are looking for. I don't think it was the safe turn they were looking for, but they secure the objective and they win the fight in the end. A fantastic impale from Shanks almost saves the day, but they still had bailout. Ruler was still alive. He was able to do massive amounts of damage in this, and unfortunately, despite a really good performance from Flandre in this fight, he just doesn't have the damage yet.
He's just not quite ready yet, and it feels so bad for him. Like, he gets in and he actually does do a lot of damage. This Impale you were talking about, the stolen one, is gigantic. And then you've got the Nemomancer right in there, Flandre trying his best. He almost bursts down Ruler, and they finally get him through the bailouts as Ruler has to flash forward just to get the takedown, but immediately dies. It's actually really close down to the wire, but GENG barely get across the line. And a huge reaction from Ruler as he knows, okay, we did it.
Look at Tarzan's face as well. Like, that fight could not have been closer. And I think given the circumstances of how much of a lead GENG had in this game, every Genji fan is like, okay, thank God it didn't go the other way, because it was a little bit risky the way they played that one out.
Yeah, that shouldn't have been allowed to be that incredibly close. Like you guys say, Shanks wrapping around and finding the angle. Is Kyle going aggressive? Another Destiny comes on in. They know exactly where everyone is. Kyle going to be the target, and he should go down pretty comfortably as a Feather Storm will be invested. It's a decently large cooldown, but Canyon is just driving around. He'll take 2 ultimates for his trouble. Gets the suppression, but he does fall. Another hostile takeover. There are in fact multiple of them all over this rift right now, but the handshakes are so good. And Genji are just controlling this battlefield. And even though they lose Canyon, they will win the fight.
Yeah, I mean, again, another kind of close one. There were double ultimates used on the Canyon by Tarzan and Flandre, and they barely were able to chunk him down. And yet still, they almost were able to win a bit towards the end of that fight. It ends up being a 1-for-1 trade, but like, man, Genji, again, they're bullies. They're getting in there. They just want to take any fight that they can.
They just have so much of a gold lead here, and this Xayah is so fed, and even Chovy does a decent amount of damage in these fights range-wise, that even if you kind of just roll in and play it very aggressively, you don't play it subtly, you don't try to kite back, and you just kind of go, yeah, maybe you got a hostile takeover, we still win by the way. It might be enough when your Twisted Fate is 3,600 gold ahead, your Xayah is 3,000 gold ahead. Hope is often alive at the end of these fights, but he just can't offer anything, as Kyle's looking for an angle here.
Possible 2v3 here in favor of AL as Tarzan takes so much damage. Okay, maybe it's not, as Keen will take a bit back, and Duro, he's going to turn up. Chovy looking for the angle here as Handshake brings back the Leona, and look at this. They're just holding them at bay, and down goes the Leona for the first kill in the fight. Now Canyon throwing rocks around. Hope is going to make it back to the turret and should be able to deal with this wave, as rapid fire cannon is just such a ridiculous item. Now the Destiny comes in. That's going to confirm the inner turret in this top lane, and maybe they can move to a Baron, although that sounds risky.
Shanks and Flandre do both have TP here. Hope is still alive, so I think trying to start this Baron with pretty low health bars here for Genji without a reset is probably not going to happen, but look at the vision control they have around the pit, in the pit, to the left of the pit. They can just reset and look for a take, as Shanks is trying to delay those resets.
Yep, gets that information that Keen is in this brush, as now it's a bit of a struggle, and he will just get taken down. That is not the information that he wanted when he pressed that Destiny button, and now the fight is going to extend. Flandre having to use that pull pretty early. They will be able to make their way out. Flandre teleporting into that is also a really big deal, because he was a big threat on that side lane, making sure that he gets as much money as he possibly can to try and do that damage, because that's what keeps him relevant.
Yeah, I love this from AGL. They're getting very scrappy. They're trying their best to find whatever angle they can, but unfortunately little mistakes here and there are just tipping the scales bit by bit towards Genji, and it's already really heavy on their side. They're just about to crest 50,000 gold.
Yeah, the timing of that Hextech ultimatum for Keen was so massive, because it denies the CC. He's able to get on top of Shanks, get past him there, and then they end up getting the pick onto the Silas, who still has TP should Genji decide, should they have decided to immediately start up that Baron again. But they still have vision control. They don't have to force this right now. They are pretty big in terms of the 80 damage they can offer with this TF and the Xayah. There's not enough damage to rush this down before a contest here, and you just don't want to keep the game flippy. You don't want to keep the game in a volatile state here as Genji. You just want to push waves, keep that lead you had, choke out the Vladimir so he can't actually get the farm he needs to get that third item online. Just make it hell for AGL to even farm on the map. Don't give them that scrappy fight they're looking for.
Certainly not looking like it's a thing they can take right now, as this inner turret going to be taken immediately. Dragon going to be up in 8 seconds time. That may distract Genji for a few moments, as they will send Canyon and Ruler over there. 3.3k is Ruler's lead, and we're now up to 4.5k, was approximately the advantage that Chovy had in this mid lane.
So in 18 minutes, that was when the second Dragon was taken for AGL. You can see that extra 10 minutes of time. Those 2 Drakes have bought before. Now we're at Drake parity, 2 Clouds. No inhibitors have gone down. No Baron has gone over. It's a thread that 9,000 gold behind AGL hang from. But they do have a thread. The thread exists, and it is this Vladimir that now has a Shadow Flame online. If there's a fight they could take, it's going to have to be stopping Genji on an aggressive Baron take. one more chance, one more try for the LPL representatives to do what they could not do in Game 5 against GENG at MSI, what they could not do against T1 at MSI to try to take this title.
You know what they could do? They could smite Barons away from GENG. So hopefully GENG do not start this objective. I think perhaps they have learned over the last couple of games to just not do that. And as I say it, immediately, that is not going to be the case. They do start it up. Tarzan, is going to be taking a lot of damage.
A keen flank.
Information advantage is massive with that Destiny just being thrown out. And AL will move back. That ulti is going to wear off, though, before the Baron is actually down, as into the pit goes Canyon, and can they burst this down is the question. Yes, they can, because the Blade Caller is going to be there. Now Tarzan with the death mark, but the death is his in this fight. Now Trophy just trying to kite around Flandre, who gets out of Hemoplague, but the pool's on cooldown. The flashes go forward, and Hope is the target. He's taken down, and in fact, he dies with all the hope of AL at the same time, as this should be the ace just after the Baron. And GENG, they may just have done it. They may have just won Game 5 and made themselves the EWC winners here for 2025.
They have absolutely done exactly that, Atlas. GENG will be your winners tonight.
GENG accomplishing what they could not with the early drop-off last year at 2024, arguably their most disappointing result of the year. And this time, they'll be the ones to crush the final key and lift the trophy. A hard-fought series. Despite a 2-0 lead, AL did not give up. It was a hard-fought win in Game 5, but a dominant Game 5 to close it out.
An incredible victory here for GENG. Like you say, the history from last year making up for that, but also the club championship, such a huge thing for this team that has already had success in 2 other titles. They will be skyrocketing themselves with all of the points that they've accrued just here today, as that trophy will be completed, and Ruler gets to lift another one alongside his teammates here for 2025.
That's it. The key is inserted. That's what this is all about. All the keys that were crushed but one, as they will put it in that trophy and say, this is my title. GENG, your esports World Cup for League of Legends 2025 winners.
It just makes sense. They go from MSI, they come over here, and it's like every series is super close, but they always end up on top. GENG, how many titles in a row can they get?
How many series in a row? Who can stop this squad?
Well, we'll just have to find out, but it'll have to be in the LCK or at Worlds. You never know. So far, 26 series in a row for GENG, as they take it in turns, lifting the trophy. And they must be getting used to this by now.
He wants the crowd, and he deserves the crowd. Man, Ruler, what a fantastic night he had tonight.
And now it is time to throw it over to that beautiful stage with Ian Chambers.
The noise in here is deafening, and so it should be. Trophy, come here, let's have a chat. What a phenomenal grand final. I do want to get to talking about the victory, the celebrations, but first, how, when you were dominating so early on, did you let them back into this one?
일단 승리 축하드리고요. 일단 첫 번째로 일단 경기 좀 말씀드릴게요. 일단 2대0으로 정말 압도적인 승리를 가지고 계셨는데 이렇게까지 좀 막세트까지 좀 이렇게 몰리게 됐어요. 그래서 막세트까지 이렇게 오게 된 게 좀 어떤 게 원인이었다고 생각하시는지?
재밌는 장면을 연출한 것 같네요.
Well, I think we just made a show.
You did make a show, that is for sure. Everybody here loved every second of it, and you have just led your team to the fastest ever back-to-back international trophies in League of Legends history. You must be so incredibly proud of yourself and your team.
이제 리그 오브 레전드 역사상 어떻게 보면 국제전에서 이렇게 짧은 기간 안에 2연속 우승을 해내셨는데 정말 기분이 짜릿할 것 같습니다. 기분은 어떠신가요?
일단 당연히 우승해서 너무 좋은데 저희 팀이 이렇게 좋은 성과를 거뒀다는 게 많이 뿌듯한 것 같아요.
Yes, of course I'm excited, but I'm also proud how my team has gotten into this trophy.
One of the things you must be proud of as well is this time last week, you were literally on a flight from Vancouver. I need to know how you found the mental resilience, the physical resilience to reset, start again, and be so successful at another international event in such a short space of time.
또 이렇게 짧은 시간 안에 이렇게 밴쿠버에서 또 여기까지 또 날라와서 어떻게 보면은 정신적으로나 육체적으로나 정말 많이 고된 여정이었을 텐데 그 여정을 어떻게 또 헤쳐나가셨는지 궁금합니다.
일단 MSI를 우승해서 마음적으로 여유가 있었고 그리고 이렇게 힘든 일정은 여기 참가한 모든 팀이 다 힘들기 때문에 그냥 잘하면 우리가 이기지 않을까라는 생각으로 임했던 것 같아요.
The fact that we won the MSI made us mentally stable, and also for physically, I think the other teams who attended to the MSI had the same problem. So I think that's just kind of mindset we had was just let's be our way. We can play if we play in our way, what we did, and we can win.
Well, we're about to witness history. The final key to be crushed here for League of Legends at the Esports World Cup. The brutal nature of this trophy system has one final laugh. AGAL, their key is being crushed as we speak right now. You enjoying it?
지금 이제 마지막 남은 키 하나, AJAL의 키가 부서지고 있습니다. 지금 AJAL의 키를 이렇게 부수는 게 어떤 기분이신가요?
일단 저기에 있는 키가 젠지가 아닌 것에 너무 다행이고 저희가 우승했다는 걸 확실하게 증명하는 것 같아서 되게 재밌네요.
Well, I definitely feel relieved it's not our key in that key crusher. And that being said, we're very grateful that we lifted the trophy.
Amazing. Right. Can I bring you with me around here, Trophy? Congratulations once again. I want to do this in front of the fans if possible. Game.
기인 선수 앞으로 나와주시죠.
How much have you enjoyed yourself at this tournament because you have been absolutely phenomenal?
이번 대회에서 정말 기인 선수 정말 압도적인 경기력, 멋진 경기력 보여주셨기 때문에 이번 대회 좀 남다르실 것 같은데 이번 대회 얼마나 즐기셨나요?
사실 저희가 작년에 EWC를 왔었는데 한번 탈락을 했었기 때문에 올해만큼은 꼭 우승하고 싶었는데 우승할 수 있어서 너무 행복한 것 같습니다.
Yeah, we went here last year when we got eliminated so early. So this time I wanted to lift up trophy, and I did. So I'm really, really excited.
You should be excited because I can now announce to here and you watching at home that our Sony MVP of this tournament, it's GENG!
이번 EWC 2025 리그 오브 레전드의 소니 MVP는 기인 선수입니다.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for your League of Legends at the Esports World Cup 2025 winners, GENG! There is one last thing we need to do. We need to loot some of your opponent's keys. Are you ready?
And it's been a golden tournament for the team with gold in their colors. GENG stopped the reverse sweep bid by AGAL and make sure that all international titles in League of Legends stay in the hands of the LCK. They win MSI, and they are your second ever League of Legends titleist here at the Esports World Cup after A huge performance by Keen and the rest of the squad. You can see what it means to them as they now partake in the tradition unlike any other. They select 3 keys from crushed opponents' dreams from earlier in the tournament to seal in the game trophy that they will have and bring back home to Seoul.
I mean, just such composure by GENG. When you feel like it's slipping out of your fingers, the sensation to just clutch your hand and keep grabbing it and not let it go out of your hands. Just
Really
want to come back, do not let AJAL complete the reverse sweep, and they reclaim their title.
So far they've selected AGAL, they selected Hanwha, and they don't have to select teams that they beat, so they could take anyone. Should you take the key of
They're gonna
last
take
year's
Cloud9.
defenders?
Cloud9.
Could they take Cloud9s? What are they pointing to? There's Hanwha's, yeah. They're like, well, we've already taken Hanwha.
T1, it's got to be T1.
And yes, they will steal
Yeah.
T1's key in resin underneath the game trophy. AGAL, Hanwha Life Esports, and T1's keys will be inside the 2025 Esports World Cup League of Legends game trophy for GENG. So one bit of business now done. As the tradition continues, they will make their walk to the 2025 Esports World Cup totem and